So good morning, everybody. This is our first actual live lecture for Chem 103. You guys are section 8. 8 is great. 8 in the morning. Strong start time, but that's all right. We're going to do the syllabus review. We'll take a little break, and then we'll talk about some of the stuff that we actually did, that I talked about in the video lecture that hopefully you guys watched. And then we'll just move on from there. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself first, and I'm going to change my pen color here because red is intimidating. So my name is Dr. Aaliyah Hefner. I hail from New Jersey, the great state of New Jersey, which is struggling right now with COVID. And from there, I went to Pennsylvania for my undergrad. I went to this little teeny tiny podunk private college, Muhlenberg College, and I got a degree in biochemistry. From there, I went to Michigan and got my PhD in biochemistry, go blue. Ironically, same colors as A&T. Didn't know that until I started working here. Then I moved down here to North Carolina. I actually moved here to start at UNC Chapel Hill as a postdoc, and I was there for a while. And then I had my second son when I moved down here, and I was like, I'm going to be a mom for a while. Bye, y'all. And then I started back teaching at A&T. So I am a mom of 3 going on 4. Number 4 is due around Thanksgiving. So if I'm a little forgetful or November comes and I'm like, y'all, I'm struggling, we starting at 8:30. Give me some grace, okay? So that's me. You'll learn more about me. I share. Feel free to share about yourself. I'll give you some opportunity to do that. But we'll go into the syllabus now. So key information I want to give you for Chem 103. The first is chemistry takes a lot of time. So you have to respect it. If you think that you can get all of your work done in an hour for this class, no. You need to give it, it's a 3-credit course. It's math intensive. There's a lot of material, and we're covering pretty much 1 chapter a week. So that's a lot to cover. It's a very fast-paced course, and unfortunately it's a little bit more fast-paced because we've really only got about 13 weeks or so to cover 10 chapters of material. So if this is your first year, you're probably used to a slower pace with high school, and then you come to college and it just sucker punch you in the throat. Don't let it get you. Please, please, please treat it with respect. Give it time. So outside of this class, which we have a 2.5-hour block on Monday mornings, you will also need to try to devote about 9 hours outside of class to this material. Now that's a lot of time. Okay, people got to work. Maybe you have kids. Maybe you take care of siblings, or you take care of, somebody else. Like, I get it. But you got to try to use as much time as you can for this course and prioritize it, especially if you're not good with math or you're uncomfortable with math or you think that chemistry is the devil. Okay? So please treat it with respect. Required materials for the course. You absolutely need the Mastering Chemistry subscription. So you can purchase the access code through the bookstore if you're on campus, or you can simply go online to Blackboard and click on the Mastering Chemistry link and go from there to purchase access. You're going to have graded assignments in there. Prioritize purchasing that first before you get a textbook, okay? The next thing you need to prioritize is a scientific calculator. So it doesn't matter whether you can make graphs on it. It doesn't have to be a graphing calculator. You just need to be able to do exponents, which you'll see some kind of an EXP button. And you need to do a couple of other functions. You need to get one of those. You can order one online. You can roll through Walmart if you want to. Wear your mask. You can get one for around $20. So that's an absolute necessity. Please, please, please make sure you have one. So if you don't have one, please get one, borrow one from a friend, somebody who already took a chemistry course or took a math course. Please get it. And then lastly, if you choose to, the textbook we're using is Introductory Chemistry by Corwin. If you like to read the textbook, go for it. I believe you can also purchase online access through Mastering Chemistry. That is, again, up to you. I encourage it, but books are expensive. So that is up to you. If your finances do not allow you to purchase the book, you can get through this course using my lecture videos only, because I'm not going to be like, all right, I lectured on this, but curveball, it's from the book. You didn't read, too bad. Like, I don't do that. So, you'll be okay as long as you keep up with the lectures. Again, this course moves really, really quickly. So please do not get behind. If you get behind, talk to me. Send me a message. Talk to me right after class or before class. You can send me a private message in the chat during class. Like, reach out, because if you're behind, it's going to be a struggle to get caught up. There's a lot of material. We go over a lot of stuff each week. So if you fall behind, if you get sick, something happens that's major in your life, the sooner you talk to me, the sooner we can work something out. And then finally, the chapter check-in assignments, which you saw the first one posted for the chapter we're going to talk about today, that's what I'm going to use as attendance. So even if you can't make it to the live lecture, you overslept, whatever, fine. It'd be like that sometimes. I can't do that because they give me a paycheck. So I have to be here every Monday morning at 8 a.m. However, you prioritize things how you want to prioritize things. The way that you can show... Oh, okay, so somebody has a question. Let me go to the chat. Okay. The access code in the textbook. So you can purchase them separately. You do not have to purchase both the textbook and the access code at the same time. You can, but you do not have to. Does that answer your question? And let me know if you have any other questions. Okay, great. So if you have a question, throw it in the chat, and I'll either pause right then and there and answer it, or I'll get through what I'm saying if I think I'm going to answer the question, and then I'll ask you, all right, did that answer your question? We good? Okay. So chapter check-ins, that's going to be your attendance. If you don't upload your assignment, you don't get credit for being present that week, because that's how I know that you've interacted with the material. You can just log on to the course and just be chilling. You can watch a movie in the background. That's not participating. Participating is engaging the material and doing something with it. So when you upload your chapter check-in to Blackboard, that's how I know you've done something. So you have until August 30th for this one, and then I give you an extra week, which is counted as late, and you're going to lose points each day, but you have another week to turn it in and still get credit for attendance and still get some points on the assignment. But after that week, that's it. Because we can't be on week 10 and you're trying to hand in an assignment for week 5. It's just that it don't work that way, okay? So please, 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 that's why it's so important. If you are behind, if something has happened major in your life, please talk to me about it. Because if you don't have these assignments in, then I can't mark you as present. And when we do midterms, when we do check-ins for first-year students or athletes and things of that nature, if you're not doing those participation assignments, then I can't call you present. So please do your chapter check-ins. Any questions? We just went through a lot of information. There's still more to go. But does anybody have any questions or concerns about what I've said so far? And if we're good, you can just say we're good. Okay, so nobody's gonna say anything. So here's the thing: when I ask a question, I actually want to answer. So you can say we're good, or just if you're good, you can raise your hand. Thank you. Excellent. So I like conversation, and it's killing me to not be on campus and not do things face to face. But I'm pregnant, y'all. This is baby number 4, and I'm not trying to get the COVID. Hey, Cameron, a repeat. Um, Sorry, that shout out will be in the YouTube video. I'm gonna make Cameron YouTube famous. Okay, so I'm pregnant, like I said before, and that's why I'm not teaching face to face this semester. Yes. What's your question? No. So those are posted to Blackboard. So it's a separate assignment. Each folder is for each chapter is going to be separate. So I have the prerequisite science skills one up now. When I post the chapter 2 lecture on Wednesday, that's going to be another separate folder, and it's going to have the lecture, the annotated PDF, and the assignment, the chapter check-in assignment. You have to click on the Mastering Chemistry link that's on the sidebar to go to Mastering Chemistry and do the assignments that are there. Okay? So they're two separate things. The participation assignment, that chapter check-in, should not take long because I'm not trying to hold you. I just want to know that you've done something you watched the video, maybe you were in class. It shouldn't take you more than 30 minutes. And if it does, that means you need some help with the material. But that assignment should be done inside of 30 minutes. So, like, you should be able to watch a TV show, and in that amount of time, you're done. Okay? Any other questions? Because we're going to get to that stuff, too. We're going to cover the types of assignments and exams and stuff. Okay, what's your question? Yes. So your first assignment is due August 30th, and I'm hoping that that's enough time for people to be able to get it. You have a 2-week free subscription. But if we have, so we can, we're going to talk about mastering chemistry a little bit later on. So if you can hold off on all those kind of logistical questions, then let me get through some of the other stuff first, and then we'll get to that. But everyone has a 2-week free subscription, so you can do your homework, and you still have a couple of weeks. Maybe your paycheck ain't come yet. You didn't get your, your book waiver or anything like that. You still have a couple of weeks. So you can get some homework done, and just let me know, because I know money is funny, especially now. With people losing their jobs and stuff. So just let me know, and we can work something out. Okay? Okay. So let's talk about grades, because at the end of the day, that's what everybody cares about. You're going to have 4 1-hour exams. They're going to be online through Blackboard. That counts as 40% of your grade. So each exam is 10%. We're pretty much going to have an exam every 2 chapters or so. Okay? So this is a little bit different than how we do the face-to-face classes. We're having an extra, we're not going to have an exam on the last couple of chapters. That's going to be more heavily weighted on the final. So you're going to have 4 1-hour exams. Then you have the mastering chemistry assignments and the chapter check-ins. So that's your homework and quizzes. That's another 40%. And that's why the mastering chemistry is so important, because it's a huge chunk of your grade. And the homework on there, you get multiple attempts to answer the question correctly without losing points. So it's really nice to be able to get hints and stuff like that and really understand the material. So if you've taken this course before, Previously, we've done Alex for like the last year or two. We're trying mastering chemistry this time just to see. So give me your feedback on how you like mastering chemistry. I'll be asking about that. And then we talked about the chapter check-ins. Those are separate and they're on Blackboard. That's your attendance. Then we have the final exam, which is in December, and that's going to be online through Blackboard as well. That's 20%. It is cumulative. So everything we talk about from today onward will be on that exam. The chapters that you will not have a specific exam on, like a 1 hour exam, those chapters will be more heavily weighted on the final exam than the previous chapters. If you need a C in this course because you need to take Chem 106 to move on, or your major requires it, you have to earn at least a 69%. The grading has been adjusted to account for the fact that it's an online course. So hopefully that will give you the wiggle room that you need. If you are just trying to get by, you're just trying to pass the class, you need at least a 55. Okay? So those are the bars. If you're trying to get higher, please do. I think everybody can. It's about the time commitment most of the time. But if you're just like, what must I do to be saved? At least a 55. Okay? Any questions about the grade distribution or grading in the course, about what you need to do, what you need to get? So here's what I would recommend for that. Um, Watch the video for the lecture. Take notes. Try the chapter check-in. Do that in one day. Then another day, if you had questions about stuff, like refresh kind of through your notes. And then I also post in each folder additional practice problems, which are not graded. It's just for you to try. So if you're like, yeah, I don't understand this, you can try those practice problems. I'm not going to post the answers to those yet. As we move further along into the course, I will. But I want to encourage you to try problems and then come to me with your questions, because I want to talk to you. I want to help. I want to see where the struggle is, because maybe it's something I need to explain a little bit better to the whole class. So try the practice problems. And if you feel good about it, it felt easy, it felt smooth, done. Do your master in chemistry, felt easy, felt good, great. Does that help? The master in chemistry homework assignments, they will take somewhere in the ballpark of like an hour or to 2 hours. That's why the chapter check-ins are so short. So don't wait to start the mastering chemistry homework. Wait for the quiz. Get through the homework if you want to, and then do the quiz. Ask your questions, then do the quiz. The quizzes you do not get to answer multiple times. It's just like a traditional quiz that's online. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Yes. I don't know if you rent the book. I'm not sure. I am not sure, but let me write that question down, and I will try to get an answer for you. And if I have no idea, then can you let's see, write that message for me in the chat, because I always go back through the chat and make sure I answered all the questions. And then I will look that up and I will post an answer. I'll post an announcement on Blackboard, because I'm sure other people may have that same question. You're welcome. Other questions? If we're good, let me know. We'll move on. I'm sorry, can you say that again? Okay. So it's in course content. Each chapter has its own folder. And so in that folder, there's the link to the YouTube video. So there's this thing called Media Site, which A&T uses, and you can upload lectures and stuff like that. I'm going to look into that and see if I can make a playlist on there too. But everybody watches YouTube on their phone. So if you have a cell phone and you can watch YouTube, you can watch the lecture. The link will be in there for that chapter. So the prerequisite science skills, there's a folder for it. There's a link that you can click on. It'll take you to the lecture. And then there's also the assignment, the chapter check-in assignment in that folder. There's also additional practice problems in that folder. So every chapter will be self-contained in a folder. The only thing that's not included in the folders is Mastering Chemistry, because that's a completely separate website. You can access it through Blackboard, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But I can't put a link to it, to each chapter thing in each folder. So you just have to click on it and see what assignments are due. Okay? All right. Other questions, or let me know if we're good. Okay. Excellent. So we kind of hinted at this, but let's talk about the class flow, because we had a lecture posted before you even heard my beautiful voice at 8 o'clock in the morning. Now, I'm going to tell you something. I'm just going to be honest. I have very young children. My oldest is 4, okay? And I see your question, Dwight, I'm going to say your name is. All right, so I'm going to get on that. I have 3 young children, 4 and under, okay? I know 8 a.m. is rough. I'm trying to be interactive. This is a lot more of me talking than I like, okay? I don't want to hear me talk this much, but this is really the best way to introduce the material and have you ask questions about it, okay? Sometimes we may choose to start class a little bit later, maybe 8:30, so you can have your morning coffee or your tea or whatever it is that you do. Sometimes I may sound sad. Not sad emotionally, but my voice may sound like I just woke up. It's because I may have. I'm just going to keep it real. Young children, sometimes they wake up at night, and that's a mommy thing. I'm not going to be my best every Monday morning. I don't expect you to be your best every Monday morning, and that's okay. But this class flow should kind of help you, and you can see where you can kind of jump in and get what you need. So the first thing that you need to do is watch the lecture on YouTube and take notes. I will always have the lecture posted the week before we talk about it. So I posted the lecture for you guys on Wednesday of last week for the stuff that we're going to talk about today. On Wednesday, because I teach another section of this tomorrow, on Wednesday, the Chapter 2 lecture is going to come out on YouTube. So while you're doing your studying and doing mastering chemistry and everything for the prerequisite science skills, you also have to make time to watch that new lecture and take notes. So that Monday of next week, we can talk about Chapter 2. We can also make time to talk about your questions from the previous chapter, okay? So it's kind of like the questions that you might bring to office hours. We may have time to go over those in class because we're not doing a traditional lecture during the class period. So watch the lecture, take notes. I post the annotated PDF. So all the writing and stuff that you see me doing, I'm making a smiley face. There's going to be a PDF of this uploaded to that prerequisite science skills folder from our live session. So you can go back to that. And likewise, the lecture that you see on YouTube, all the notes and stuff that I take on the screen, there's a PDF of that already posted online. So if you want to print that out, or if you have a tablet or your phone is a tablet, you can take notes on that. You can print it out, put it in a binder, okay? Whatever you do, interact with the material. Try the practice problems that I go over in the lecture, like press the pause button and try it, and then watch the solution. And that will become really, really important, especially for chapter 2 and all the other math heavy chapters that we're going to do, which those are going to come more towards the end of the course. We're going to have math intensive in chapter 2, and then 3 through 6 is going to be more concept based. Chapter 7 is balancing equations, which is sort of like math. And then 8, 9, and 10 are all math. So you really do need to get comfortable with trying the practice problems that I go over and then watching the solution. So any questions about kind of my take on how you should watch the lectures that I post to YouTube? Because we're just on step 1. Okay. So after that, I would encourage you to try that participation assignment, the chapter check-in, right after watching the lecture notes. It's designed for you to be able to do it in about 30 minutes. And as the chapters get more intense and there's more involved, there's going to be fewer questions. So by the time we get to chapter 8 or 9, you may literally have 2 questions to do. And those 2 questions you should be able to do in 30 minutes. Try that and make sure that you understand at least most of what was covered. Then you can go to the Mastering Chemistry and try some of the homework problems. And if it looks like, that looks foreign, take note of what it is, and you can bring that with you to class the next week. When you attend the live lecture, you can ask questions. You can ask homework questions, and we can do questions that are similar to the ones that you're doing on Mastering Chemistry. We'll do practice problems that I already have queued up. You can ask questions about the chapter check-in. And then after that, you complete the remaining assignments that you have before the due date and time. And everything is going to be due on Sundays, except for exams, which we'll talk about exams. So are we good on that? Are there questions about the flow of the class? Okay. And if you suddenly remember a question, you can always get in touch with me about it. Okay. So let's talk about Blackboard a little bit. Okay. Some key features. So this is what you see on the side of the side menu. Faculty information. That's me. Okay. So my email is there. My full name is there. I don't really think there's much else there. But if you need my email address, it's there. Mastering Chemistry is under course information. So you click here, and then you can access Mastering Chemistry, which I'm going to abbreviate MC. Now, the directions for starting your Mastering Chemistry subscription, like signing up online and stuff, that's in the syllabus. But I do want to point out that you need to use an email address that is not your A&T email. So when you sign up for it, do not use your A&T email address. Use your Gmail or whatever you have. Okay? That's where you're going to click to do all of your homework, the homework and quizzes. Yes. Yeah, if you've already done it, yeah. If you've already done it and you used your A&T email in the past, then it's fine. But if you're a new user, they don't want you to use your A&T email address. You're welcome. And I forgot to mention, if you need help with signing up, the Pearson representative, her name is Erica, she's having office hours. So if you need help with setting up mastering chemistry and just kind of learning mastering chemistry, which there is a an introduction to mastering chemistry to help you get used to how to input, answers and stuff like that, and that's also due. Um, I can hook you up and get you signed up for a time slot to speak with Erica, probably via Zoom or something like that, and she can help you with getting signed up for mastering chemistry. So if you're interested in that, you can let me know. The syllabus, it's posted. You click on the syllabus link. If there are changes to the syllabus, I will post a revised syllabus and I'll put the date that it was revised. So there will always be, if there's any changes, I will revise the syllabus and post it. But I will never do that and just post it silently. I'll let you know. There shouldn't be any major changes, but there are many sections of this course. And if there needs to be some kind of a change with grades or any kind of adjustment, it would be for everyone taking the course. And that would come down from on high. And I would be informing you of what the change is. And hopefully I'll be able to give you a little bit of background as to why it's being changed. But it's out of my hands. But you'll know what it is at the very least. So if you have not accessed the syllabus yet, it's there. It has a table with all of the different topics that we're doing, all the chapters, and when assignments are due, exams, all that sort of stuff. So go to the syllabus and check it out, download the PDF, make sure that you put the dates on your calendar for when things are due. And there's also dates for like midterm grades, when finals are, all that sort of stuff. I tried to put some of those important dates in there. So midterm grades are due like mid-October. So you want to make sure that you're caught up and that you're doing well, because it will be reflected. I have to report what it is. So by that time, you will have had at least one exam, if not two. So I also have to report attendance. Make sure that you do those chapter check-ins. So that syllabus has a lot of good information in there, and if there's questions on it, always let me know. Okay. Course content. This is where you're going to find the meat of the course. And we talked about that a little bit already, but there's going to be a folder for each chapter, and inside of each folder is going to have your lecture link, the chapter check-in assignment, more practice for you to do on your own time if you need it, and anything else that might be relevant to the course. The only thing that's not there, like I said, is the mastering chemistry. Then there's quizzes, tests, and exams. We haven't used this yet because we haven't had an exam yet, but that's what you're going to click on when we take exams in the course. You're going to have a 3-day period to do a 1-hour exam. Once you start it, you got to finish it. So the exams will always be released on a Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. and they close Friday just before midnight. So Friday, 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Within that window, you got to find an hour to sit down and do the exam. In the syllabus, it says that you are required to use Respondus Lockdown, the browser, and the monitor. We'll talk a little bit more about that probably next week, but there are certain requirements that your computer needs to have, and I'm going to post a practice exam that you can make sure that your computer meets those requirements, or you can find one that does So if you need to borrow somebody's or something like that, then you'll have time to work that out. But it is a requirement for everybody. Just going to let you know off rip. Your camera needs to work. Your microphone needs to work. So if you know that your laptop or your desktop has an issue with either of those things, start the hunt now to figure out how you can take the exam. And it can't be a Chromebook. Chromebooks don't like respond as lockdown for college use. So if you have a Chromebook or an iPad, you can't use it. You need to use something else. But we'll talk about that a little bit more next week. Are you with me so far? Because I've been talking a lot, and I need a sip of water, so I'm going to let you talk. Let me know if you're good. All right. Excellent. We're going to talk about one more thing on this slide, and that's the announcements. So announcements, you'll probably see that I posted one real quick at the beginning of class as a reminder, like, hey, come join us. That's how I'll be communicating with everyone. So if there's some kind of change, or if I've uploaded a video, I'm going to post an announcement, and I'm also going to send that announcement to your email. Now, if I include a link, like a Blackboard link, that's not going to show up in the email. So if I put a link to an assignment or a link to a folder, that's not going to show up in your email, but you can go to Blackboard and you'll see it, and you'll be able to click the link that's right underneath the announcement to take you where I want you to be. I'm going to be posting a quick poll on Blackboard to see if people want specific office hours, just to see if, because our class time is kind of like office hours, but not exactly one-on-one. So I don't have scheduled office hours yet, but I'm going to be polling all of my classes to see if there's a time that works for most people, and I can make that time available. So look out for that, and I will be posting a link, a Blackboard link, along with the announcement. So when you see that email, know that you need to go to Blackboard to access the poll. The last thing we're going to talk about is communication in this course. So let me go back for a second. So there's this course messages. That's what we're talking about here. Usually you send the email and then that's it. But they are trying to enforce using these course messages. So if you click on course messages, you're brought to a page that kind of looks like this. I cut it off a little bit. But you have the option to create a message. And when you create a message, you can choose who you're sending it to. You should send it to me if you want it to be to me. So you scroll through the list and you find my name. That's why you should know my name. Okay? Send me a message through Blackboard and I will see it. I check it multiple times a day and then I'll get back to you. And if it's something that I know, oh, I forgot to mention this, or oh man, that answer is wrong on the answer key, then I'll post an announcement that answers it. Otherwise, I will answer you specifically. If you want to talk about grades, if you have a question about, one of the problems that you're doing and you're trying to get some help or set up office hours time, all those things you can do by sending me a course message. I am supposed to reply to you saying, hey, if you email me, hey, you should send me this message through Blackboard. So we're going to give that a shot, see what happens. I'm used to using email too. Let's just see what happens. I'm not sure how strict we're going to be on that one, but at the end of the day, I want you to communicate with me. So if that's sending a carrier pigeon, if that is, whatever it is, just talk to me. I want to know what's going on. If you're struggling in the course, I want to know that. If you're doing well in the course, I want to know that. I want to know what's working for you so I can incorporate more of that. So please, 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 if there's an issue, If there's like literally anything that's major life changing, let me know. You don't have to tell me the details. But if somebody died in your family, somebody got sick, you're sick, like there's a lot of just stress at home if you're not on campus, or stress on campus if you're on campus, because sometimes roommates be trash. Let me know, because all of those things affect your performance, they affect your attendance. So please don't keep me in the dark. I'm not trying to know all your business. I just want to know what's going on so that if you do need some grace, we may be able to work it out. I can't promise any of that. And if it's just, hey, I just been sleeping in and partying, sorry, bruh. Like, you just got to figure it out. But if there's legitimate things going on in life and you're struggling to keep up, let me know, because I can help you get caught up. I can help you understand. 15 to 30 minutes of office hours can really change your life in terms of understanding the material. And I hope I'm approachable. So please come to me if you have an issue. So I think that's it for the syllabus part. If you have any questions, let me know. But I think that this is a good time for a break. So we're going to take 10 minutes. I have 8:53. So at 9:03, we will start the prerequisite science skills. So if you have questions, let me know. You can go to the bathroom, get your breakfast. Just don't be slurping and stuff if your microphone is on. I don't want to hear you eat breakfast because I'm hungry. That's not nice. But 9:03, we'll pick back up with the prerequisite science skills. So go ahead, take a break, chat with each other if you want to. I'm going to turn my microphone off, and I'm going to pause the recording here because I don't think we want 10 minutes of silence. And I don't feel like editing 10 minutes of silence. So do what you got to do, and then at 9:03, we'll come back. Welcome back, everybody. It is 9:03, and we are going to get started with the second part of the course, the second part of the lecture. But I just wanted to give any opportunity for you to ask questions if there was something on your mind or on your heart that I left out. It's a lot of information, a lot of which is in the syllabus. But if you have specific questions, or if you need me to go over something again, this would be a good time to do it before we start talking about the material from the lecture video. So if you have a question about the syllabus or anything like that, this is your time. Otherwise, we'll move on. So let me know. If we're good, let me know we're good. If you have a question, write it in the chat, or you can just say your question. Yes. Yes, you have to purchase the access code for Mastering Chemistry. And I recommend that you prioritize that over purchasing the textbook. Yeah, so the access code is just so that you can do the homework online. The homework and quizzes through Mastering Chemistry. And that's a large part of your grade, which is why I recommend purchasing that before you purchase the textbook. Because the textbook is not, I believe that you get a code if you purchase the textbook, but that's a lot more money. Let's just be real. It's a lot more money. And if you're never going to take chemistry again, what are you going to do with it afterwards? So it's up to you if you want the textbook, but definitely get the code. And you can do that if you just go to Mastering Chemistry online through Blackboard. And if you've never used Mastering before, then you'll have to, make an account and everything. But once you do that, you can just pay for mastering chemistry. There is an option, I believe, to be able to have access to the book online, and that's a little bit more expensive. Yeah. So that's another alternative to purchasing the book, but you don't have to do that unless you want to. Just get the just get the subscription to do the homework and the quizzes. Other questions? I know a lot of y'all said they were good. What kind of calculator? So you need a scientific calculator, one that you can do exponents and logs and that kind of stuff on. So it doesn't have to be a graphing calculator, like a TI 83 or 89 or something like that. Those are more expensive. You can get, and I'm going to show you, if you need help with figuring out what kind of calculator, I can help you out. But it just has to be a scientific calculator. And you can get one of those for about 20 bucks or so. Other questions? Looks like most of y'all said you were good. Okay. So now we're going to move on to talk about the stuff that I covered in the first lecture. We're literally going to jump right into it. So if you didn't watch it, just kind of buckle up. We're going to kind of review things as we go along. So the first major concept, we talked about measurements versus exact numbers. So I'll remind you of what those things are. An exact number is easy, okay? You can count it. So if you're counting number of coins, you can count the number of cars parked on the street. You can count, anything that you can count, that's an exact number. A measurement, you need an instrument. So you need to use some kind of an instrument to get the measurement. You're using a ruler to figure out the length of something, or you're using a beaker to measure out an amount of liquid. And that measurement is what you're reading on the side of the glass or on the ruler. Measurements, exact numbers. Which one of them, when we're talking about significant figures, which one has significant figures? Which one do we care about significant figures for? Is it measurements or exact numbers? You can write your answer in the chat. You have a vote for measurements. Measurements. Let's see if we can get another couple of votes. Measurements versus exact numbers. Which one do we actually care about with sig figs? Yeah. So with measurements, we care about sig figs. So up here, I have 4 different numbers. I want you to, in your notes, on your notebook or whatever, go through and label each one as a measurement or an exact number. And if it's a measurement, tell me how many significant figures there are. So I'll give you like 2 minutes to get started, and then I'll do the first like 2 of them, and then we'll do the last 2, okay? So I'll give you a couple of minutes. I want to know, is it a measurement or an exact number? If it's a measurement, tell me how many sig figs there are in the number. Hope y'all came to work, because that's what we're about to do. I'll give you another minute. It's probably been more like 30 seconds, if I'll be honest. But I'll give you about a minute. And then I'll start going over them. All right. So it's been about a minute. I wish I had some music or something to play in the background, but if this goes up on YouTube, I ain't trying to get nobody handing me something saying, "Oh, you use my copyrighted music." But a minute is a long time. I was just staring at the clock, like, so you gonna move? All right. So this first one, 80.5 centimeters squared, measurement or exact number? You just put M or E. You don't have to type out the whole thing. Yeah, it's a measurement. How many sig figs are in this measurement? Excellent. So there's three sig figs. All three figures, all three of these digits are significant. Okay. What about the second one? 12 drops. Measurement or exact? Yeah, that's an exact number. So you can count the number of drops that you drop from a dropper or something like that. That's an exact number. So sig figs, nah, we don't have any sig figs. What about this last one? Or not the last one, the third one. 560 deciliters. Measurement or exact? Excellent. It's a measurement. How many sig figs do we have? Ah, everybody's saying three. I tricked you. There's only two. So remember those placeholder zeros. Okay? This zero is a placeholder. If you didn't have the zero there, it would be 56, not 560. There's no decimal, so that means that zero is not significant. So 560 versus that versus, we haven't talked about scientific notation quite yet, but we're getting there. These have three sig figs, okay? But without the decimal, without writing it in scientific notation, there's only two in 560. That zero is a placeholder. Questions about that? Those placeholder zeros can be tricky. So look for the decimal or scientific notation to help you out. Now for this last one, is that a measurement or an exact number? Yeah, it's a measurement. And tell me how many sig figs we have here. So we've got a mixture of answers. We've got fours and we've got fives. So I'll be the tiebreaker. There's five. I know you're looking at me like, wait, but there's a zero at the end. That one doesn't count. Yes, it does. So you see how there's this decimal point here? When you have a decimal point, breaking things up like this, 94.360, that last number, it's measured and it's your uncertain digit. When I talked about measurements in the video, we said that the last number in, or the last digit in a measurement is the uncertain digit. It's the one that you kind of guess on. That's what that 0 is. So know the difference between a placeholder 0 and a significant 0. So usually that's kind of where people get a little bit tripped up. If you have questions about that, you can let me know. Do the practice. There's going to be plenty of practice on mastering chemistry as well. So are we good to move on, or do you want to do some more examples? Let me know. Move on or more examples. Okay. All right. So I got y'all saying you're good. Okay, we got another example. We can throw another example up there. We'll toss in one more example. So we've got two numbers here, 9,650 meters and 9,065 meters. Okay. I'm just going to kind of do this example to demonstrate the difference between the placeholder 0 and a significant 0. This 0 and the first one is a placeholder. It's not significant. There's no decimal. We're not writing it in scientific notation. That's just to let you know that we're talking about 9,000 something and not 965. But let me switch colors here. 9,065, this is not a placeholder. This is a measured 0, okay? It's in the mix. It's in between two other digits. So if I were doing sig figs, this one would have 4 sig figs. Oops. And the other one would have 3 sig figs. So make sure you know the difference. If you need more help with that, let me know. But we can do that on a one-on-one thing. It seems like most people are fairly good. Oh, why not do that? We did both things on the same slide. I put it in twice, but we didn't break it up. All right. Now I want you to the best of your ability. I know everybody's using a screen, so you may not have super great resolution, depending. But report the length of this purple line using the correct number of sig figs. We did a couple of examples like that in the video. I say we. It was me. I did it. Maybe you participated. I hope you did. But use this ruler. Tell me the length of the purple line using the correct number of sig figs. And once you figure it out, you can just put your answer in the chat. Yeah, there's a hand raised. Do we have a question? You can write it in the chat or say it. Your eyes can't handle it. That's all right. That's all right. Don't worry about it. See, I'm the one that's old. You can't be saying your eyes can't handle it. But if you can't read it, you can at least tell me. You can at least give me an idea of how many sig figs there are. All right. So let me know how many significant figures there should be if you're using this ruler. So we've got a 7.30, we've got 7.5. So I'm with the 7.30 folks. Okay. The main thing, yeah, so the main thing here is know how many sig figs you're supposed to have from this. You should have 3 significant figures. Because we can read 2 for sure. And that last one, we kind of eyeballing it, okay? I'm not gonna give you something like this on Blackboard, like as an exam, because everybody's resolution can't do this. So don't worry about it. The main thing is know how many significant figures you should be able to get based on what your instrument looks like, okay? So I think we're pretty good on that. As long as you're in the right ballpark and you give me the right number of significant figures. So if you said 7.5, the reason I'd mark that wrong is more because you didn't give me the right number of significant figures. So any questions on that? Or are we good? Okay. Cool. So now we're going to move on to reviewing addition and subtraction and then multiplication and division rules with sig figs. So I'm going to do a little bit of a review just to kind of remind you. And then I want you to do the actual problem on the screen. No shame in using your calculator. My brain does not do math until about 11 o'clock. Until then, I can't help you. So that's all right. Okay. With addition and subtraction, what you want to care about is the number of decimal places. So here we've got 2 measurements of length. We've got one measurement that has 2 decimal places, 1, 2, and another measurement that only has 1. When we're doing this, we do our addition, and then you need to make sure that you report your answer with the right number of sig figs. So let me erase my little check marks real quick. Okay. In this case, I like to draw a line that shows me what my last figure is, what my last digit is, and then what number I'm using to round, okay? So in this case, your answer should be up to the 10th place, and whatever is in this 100th place next to it, you're going to use to round up or just cut it off. So take a second, do the math, and figure out what your answer should be. So there's the calculator answer, and then there's the sig figs answer. I want you to give me the sig figs answer. So what your answer is after you've rounded. I'm going to slowly do the math by hand. Yeah, go ahead and put your answer in the chat box. I don't know how I'm going to learn all of your names when I don't get to hear you say them. We'll have to figure that out because I want to be like, oh yeah, and so said this. I am not going to attempt the name that your mama gave you and mess it up because I don't want to insult anybody. And my name gets botched all the time because it has 3 vowels. Okay, so we're getting some answers. And some are saying 5 sig figs and some are saying 4. Okay. I like it when there's some contention because then we can figure things out. So, the calculator answer is 177.76. Okay. The calculator is not going to tell you units. It's not going to tell you sig figs. With our sig figs answer, we're actually looking to get 4 sig figs here because we've only got up to the 10th place. So that's why I drew that line here. That line reminds me, okay, I've got to chop everything off or I've got to round. So this digit here is the last one that I can have in my answer. So with that, we now need to round. 177.7. The next digit is a 6. What am I doing with this 7 here? Am I going to round it up to 8? Or am I just going to leave it alone? Right, it has to go up to 8. So your answer should have 4 significant figures, and it should be 177.8 centimeters. So that's addition. It's the same thing with subtraction. There's going to be a lot of that on Mastering Chemistry, and I know I gave some kind of an example like that on the chapter check-in. If you want to do another example with addition and subtraction, let me know. So, another example or move on. Your choice. Okay. Another example. Great. Please don't be afraid to say another example because that's why I'm asking. I'm not asking them, oh man, you want to do another one? Well, another one though? That's not what we're here for. I want to do examples. We may not always have all the time in the world, but I want to make sure that you get what you need. So let's do another example. We're just going to do addition again. It's the same exact thing. So I'll kind of talk you through this one a little bit. We're going to draw our line here to know where we have to cut things off. So before you do any math, how many sig figs should your answer have? Yes. Your answer should have 5 sig figs. So you should have 2 places after the decimal point. Go ahead and do the math and then tell me what your answer is after you've rounded. Yes. So make sure that you only have 5 sig figs. That was probably a typo with the 3 4s, getting 4 happy. But you should have 466.44 inches as your answer. So when you're doing the addition, subtraction, multiplication, division like this, figure out how many sig figs your answer should have first. Then go to your calculator or do it by hand. Then go back to how many sig figs you should have and do your rounding. So don't get lost in the calculator. The calculator will lead you astray. If you just write all those digits down, I'm going to be sad. And I'm like, no, cross them out. Well, I can't really do that. It's all digital. But you know what I mean. So make sure you figure out how many sig figs you need first. Let's move on to multiplication and division. With these, the rule is you figure out how many sig figs you have for each of the numbers that you're doing multiplication or division with. Whichever number has the least number of significant figures, that tells you how many sig figs you're going to use in your answer. So in this first example, we've got 23 feet, and that's 2 sig figs. Then we have 50 feet. How many sig figs do we have in this 50? Is it 1 or 2 sig figs? 1. So that means that our answer should have 1 significant figure after we do the math. Go ahead and do that. And then I want you to also attempt the second question using the same method that we just did, where you figure out the number of sig figs and then you report your answer. So if you have an answer for the first one, you can put it in the chat box. If you're like, I don't know about this, you can say that too. Okay, we have an answer but not sure. And then we have 1,000 feet squared. I'm going to say yes to that. So that is the answer with significant figures. Okay. And I know, you look at your calculator, you look at the number with sig figs, and you're like, wait, what? To have 1 significant figure, that means that we've got to do some rounding. We're going to keep this number, which means we're going to use this second number to round. Oops, I labeled the wrong one. Okay. I know it looks weird, but since we can only have 1 significant figure, you have to round the first number, and that's, you round it down to 1,000. Now the other thing I want to point out is the feet squared. Where did that come from? When you're multiplying, you're not just multiplying the numbers, you're also multiplying the units. If I were to say 8 times 8, that's 64. Should have learned that in like 1st or 2nd grade. The other way you can write that is 8 squared. That's 8 times 8. Same thing when you're multiplying units. Feet times feet gives you feet squared. So that's an area. On mastering chemistry, you're definitely going to see some unit analysis, which is what this is called, using the multiplication and division of sig figs. So when you're putting in your answer, you need to make sure that you have the right number of significant figures and make sure that your units are correct. The units are usually what trips people up, even more so sometimes than the sig figs themselves. Now we'll go through the second problem, or actually, if you haven't attempted the second problem, give it a try, and then if we need to, we can do some more practice. So let's figure out where your question marks are. So there definitely should be one sig fig in your answer. Yeah, your calculator is going to tell you 15. Sig figs can only have one. So you have to round this 1 up to a 2, and you would report your answer as 20. But we haven't handled the units yet. When we're looking at our units, we've got centimeters cubed divided by centimeters. And writing it like that, we're implying that there's a 1 there for the exponent in just centimeters. When you do the division, you're also dividing for your units. When you have exponents like that, you're going to subtract. So you're going to do, oops, not 2. That's the answer. Let's try that again. So to figure out what your units are, you subtract 3 minus 1 to get centimeters squared. Again, that's definitely going to be on Mastering Chemistry. We're going to work more on that with Chapter 2. But these kinds of things, these 2 rules for multiplying and dividing with sig figs and doing the same thing with the units, you'll definitely need to know. Questions about that? Let me know if you want to do another example. Yeah, we can do another example of each. Is that kind of the general consensus that we want to try some more of these? Okay. Alrighty. I don't think I can do that. Alright, so what we're going to do is, so all of this is going to be saved. You're going to see it. I'm going to erase everything here. I'm going to put up 2 new ones, because I'm not sure Yeah, I did not add an extra slide to be able to do more examples. So I'm going to clear all the ink on the slide. I'm going to say, yep, we did those. And again, the annotated PDF of this is going to be posted in the Prerequisite Science Skills folder, along with another link to this session. So the recording from this session will also be on YouTube. So if you wanted to go back and listen to an explanation, you can on YouTube. If you wanted to just look at the solution, you can do that by going to Blackboard and checking out the PDF. So I'm trying to give you all the things so that you can see how these problems are solved and the process, not just the answer, but how we're thinking through it. So let's do another example. So for the first one, we're going to do 129 centimeters multiplied by 83.7 centimeters. So let's break it up. How many sig figs are in 129 centimeters? Great. What about 83.7? Yep. So there's no issue there. We can count the sig figs. Okay. In this case, they have the same number of sig figs, so we don't really have to think about it. You can put it into your calculator. Your calculator is going to tell you a big number. It's not going to tell you units or anything, but it's going to tell you a big number. If we need 3 sig figs, which number do we need to round? Which digit? So the 1, the 0, the 7, the 9, like which digit do we need to round? Yeah, we need to round this first 7. And we're going to use the 9 to figure out whether or not we go up or down. So with sig figs, now I'll throw a comma in there because that may help. Is that 7 going to stay the same, or are we going to bump it up to 8? Yeah, we're going to have to bump it up to 8. So the numerical answer is 10,800. And this has 3 sig figs. Now we have to deal with our units. What do you think our units are going to be? We have centimeters times centimeters. Remember, this one's centimeters. Yeah, it's all right. It's going to be centimeters squared. So now I'll give you a division one, and I want you to walk through that one on your own, and then I'll go through it. Throwing a little bit of a curveball to make sure that you understand the units and how we do it, okay? So this will be another example that you're going to see on Mastering Chemistry. So that's 765.3 liters divided by 1292 seconds. Figure out how many sig figs your answer needs to have. Do the calculation. Do your rounding. Then figure out units. How many sig figs should your answer have? 4 sig figs. So does anybody have an answer with 4 sig figs? You can just tell me the number, and we'll talk about the units. Yeah, it should be a small number because you're taking a number and dividing it by something that's bigger. So I think for the person who got that big number, you may have multiplied. Okay. So our calculator, or no, this is not our calculator answer. This is our significant figures answer. It should be 0.5923. And on an exam or in a quiz, you would get most of the credit because you reported your answer with the right number of significant figures. However, we care about what this number represents. We need to know what the units are. And here we're dividing liters by seconds. So that's what our units are, liters per second. Okay. Now in the example we did before, we had similar units, centimeters cubed divided by centimeters. And in that case, we can do the division with our units the same way as we did with our numbers. However, liters and seconds are not the same. So your units are going to represent, this is liters per second. So if you think about like a faucet, okay, I'll go over the sig figs in just a second. So if you think about taking a shower or running the water in the sink, that's a certain amount of water or volume per time. That's kind of like what these units are, liters per second. That's telling you volume per time. So make sure when you're evaluating your units that you make sure, okay, can I divide these units or do I need to report them as like a rate, like liters per second? I wanted to give you those two different types of examples to make sure you get the units. Backtracking to the number of sig figs. It seemed like most everybody got the sig figs, but the way that you figure it out is by looking at the two numbers you're dividing. So we have 765.3. That's got 4 sig figs. 1292 also has 4 sig figs. So our answer has to have 4. But let's say that instead of giving you 765.3, I just gave you 765. Then you would have 3 sig figs, and your answer would have 3 sig figs, which would be the 0.592, somewhere in that ballpark. Okay? So you want to use the number of significant figures that corresponds to the measurement that has the fewest significant figures. And that's only for multiplication and division with sig figs. So are there questions on that? If there are, you can let me know, and I can put out some more practice for that. Okay, you're welcome. Because we do have a couple of other things to cover, and I want to make sure we have time for that. We've got about 40 minutes left. And we still need to talk about, I think there's a word problem and some scientific notation. So there should be no zero, only 4 sig figs. So 0.5923. This zero here in the front is a placeholder. So it doesn't count as far as our sig figs. Okay. So yeah, hit me up with your questions about the rules for this. If you want more practice, I can give you more practice. But for now, we're going to move on. So make a note and let me know. And we can also add in some more practice next week. What I will do from now on is include a do now. So the first slide that you see will not be a title slide. It's going to be a couple of practice problems to get you thinking about the stuff we did last week or what we're about to do. So be ready for that. Now we're going to do a practice problem. And this is going to be something we go through together because this is my way of showing you how to sort through a word problem and get an answer. Word problems are everywhere in chemistry, and you need to be able to sort through all the words to figure out what the question is and what information is actually relevant. So, this is a problem that I use every year. I have a house, okay? I pray one day you will too, if you do not already. Don't pray that blessing into your life. However, you have to pay for that sucker. You got to pay property taxes, and if something breaks, you got to fix it. Ain't no calling maintenance, no facilities support on campus. It's you and your wallet. I am blessed to have a husband who knows how to fix most things, so I don't have to roll truck for everything. But it still costs money for supplies. Let's say that you have 2 pieces of land because you are that prosperous, and they have to be surveyed for tax purposes. And what that means is they just go out and measure it. They have an official person come, and they measure it, and they say your land is, you have this much land, okay? The property tax rate is 73 cents per square foot. So for every square foot that you own, you are paying 73 cents to your county or your state simply because you have land. It doesn't make sense, but that's what it is. So with these 2 different plots of land, what will we have to pay in property tax for this year? You've got a circle and you've got a rectangle. So we have to distill out what the question is. And I will underline that. What will you have to pay in property tax for this year? So what that means is we're going to take the area of the circle and add it to the area of the rectangle. And then we're going to multiply that by the tax rate. Because we need to know the total area to know the total tax. So that's what the question is asking. And I've given the equations for how to figure out the area of a circle and the area of a rectangle. That little doohickey there is pi for the area of a circle. There should be a pi button on your calculator. If not, you can approximate it as 3.14. Okay. So what I want you to do is figure out the area of the circle and figure out the area of the rectangle. If you have questions, this would be a good time to ask. But we're breaking down the problem and doing it step by step. So if you have questions about how we got to this point, ask it now. Otherwise, calculate the area of the circle and the area of the rectangle. And I'm going to go to the next slide, which still has this problem on it. Just gives me a little bit more space. Okay. So we're not doing anything with sig figs yet, by the way. That comes at the end of the problem. So right now, we're just dealing with what the calculator is saying. Okay, so we got an answer for the circle area. And then we have something for the rectangle area. So we're gonna call the circle area 2349.99. Just gives us a lot of figures to work with. Feet squared plus 277. I'm going to include all of the digits for that one. So this is the circle. This is the rectangle. Questions about how we got this far. And if you're just like, I'm lost, help, you can say that too. You can just write help. We'll go over it. And if it's a matter of your calculator, then we can go over that as a one-on-one. Okay, we got our first help. Don't be afraid to say help. Y'all are paying tuition to understand and do well. So, we're trying to figure out the total area of all the land that we own so the tax man can get his dollars and get out of our hair. The first plot of land that we have is a circle. The way you figure out the area of a circle is pi r squared, which is this equation right here. The r is the radius, the distance from the center of the circle out to the edge of the circle. That value is 27.35. So in your calculator, what you can do if you don't know where the pi button is just say 3.14 times 27.35 squared. You can also write that as 27.35 times 27.35. So if you didn't use exactly pi, then you're going to get a slightly different answer. Okay? So that's fine. It's in the same ballpark. It's going to be close enough to get you the right answer at the end. So that's the circle. For the rectangle, it's just the length times the width. So you're going to take, or that should be a plus sign. Okay. So that's the circle. Length times width, you're going to just take the 18.257 and multiply that by 15.2. That's your rectangle. So that's where we got those two numbers from for the area. Now we have to do total area to figure out how much taxes we owe. So you have to add these two together. You're going to get somewhere in the ballpark of this number right here. So 2,627.5 feet squared. But that's not the answer yet. That tells us the total area of our land. Now we have to take our tax rate and multiply by the number of square feet that we have. So square feet, that's the same thing as this. If you're looking for a house, if you're looking at like real estate listings and stuff, you're going to see SQFT. But it's the same thing as doing feet squared. Okay. For our taxes, we're going to take that rate of 73 cents for every foot squared and multiply by the number of feet squared that we have. And we should get a dollar amount. So try that multiplication and see what you get. Ooh, I can barely squeeze that in. Let me try to rewrite that. Okay. So yeah, your calculator may round it off as 1918.08. You might see the 0.075, but that's where we are, okay? So since it's dollars, you're not going to have, 3 decimal places like that, right? You're going to have 2. But let's say that we're just reporting with the number of sig figs. If we look at all the information that we have a tax rate, which we're calling an exact number, okay? It's fixed. It doesn't change. That's just what they're charging. No rhyme or reason. That's just what it is. For our radius in our circle, we have 4 sig figs. The length of our rectangle 5 sig figs, and the width of our rectangle, 3 sig figs. If we were doing this problem and reporting with significant figures, we did addition, we did multiplication, bunch of stuff. So in order to report the right number of sig figs, we have to look at the problem and see what's the fewest number of sig figs that we have for our measurements. And that would be 3 sig figs. Okay? So are you with me so far? We said 4 sig figs for the radius, 5 sig figs for the length of the rectangle, 3 for the width of the rectangle. So we have to use 3 sig figs for our answer. How do we report 3 sig figs with this answer? You put that into the chat box. Now you may from time to time hear a feature voice of my husband or one of my children. I'm in the garage right now, in my garage office, but it's still connected to the house. So you might hear some running feet. You might hear a toddler, okay? Don't be alarmed. They won't hurt you. Just try to focus on the smooth, silky sound of my voice. Okay. So, we're rounding to 8 in 1918. We have someone saying 1920. So yeah, we have to round. And the number that we're going to round, I think I know what you're getting at. But we have to use the 8 to round up. So our answer with sig figs would be almost $2,000, okay? $1,920 in taxes. So this is a convoluted way to, one, show you how to do significant figures when you have multiple operations that you have to do. So addition and subtraction and multiplication, like, putting all those things together. And also how to go through and read a word problem. So you need to pick out all the relevant information, have a plan, do your plan, and then make sure that your answer makes sense. So you're not going to get this exact problem on an exam or even in mastering chemistry, but you will have to read a problem and figure out the answer, and it's not just going to be straight up add X plus Y. You may have to do a little bit of figuring out to see what the actual question is, what information is relevant and what isn't. So we'll be doing much more practice like that as we go on, because word problems are one of the toughest things for students usually in this course. So any questions on that? Okay. You can always go back and try it again. You can put different numbers in, but make sure that you get it, okay? All right, moving on. So this is our last topic, scientific notation. And once we do this, we are done. We'll do the first one first, so write the following numbers in scientific notation. We got a really big number and a really little number. Give this first one a shot, the really big number, and put your answer in the chat as best you can. You can put it in the chat as like number times 10 to the whatever your exponent is. Okay. So that's how you can put it into the chat. have one answer so far. Got another answer. Wait for another one or two, because we've got two different answers. Okay. So let's figure this out. The format, which I already told you, you're going to have some number, and this is going to be at least 1, less than 10. And then you're going to have times 10 to the, and your exponent reflects that it's a really big number or a really small number. A positive exponent means that your number is greater than 1. A negative exponent, less than 1. So now the question is, where's the decimal place? How are you supposed to know? There's that implied decimal place all the way at the very end. And I like to just use dots or check marks as I'm counting to figure out, okay, how many places. So the first thing we got to do is make this this initial number right here with our sig figs. So we've got our non-zero numbers here. 54 is not less than 10. So we're going to have to go with 5.4, okay? So that means we're taking this decimal point and moving it there. Now you got to count the places. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And it should be positive because our number is greater than 1. So 5.4 times 10 to the 16 is what you should get. Now, I will tell you that on an exam, if it was multiple choice, that's going to be one of your options for an answer. Not trying to trick you, but I do want you to pay attention. So if you chose this one, it would be wrong. Okay? So scientific notation, this first number that shows your sig figs has to be at least 1 and less than 10. How about this second one? Is your exponent going to be positive or negative for this small number? Exactly. It's going to be negative. So if you have an answer, write it in the chat. Otherwise, do it and then write it in the chat. Okay? We're getting some answers in. So that first part of the scientific notation number has to be 1.96. We need something at least 1, less than 10. 1.96 fits the bill. So we move that decimal point, and then you count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. and that's negative because the number that you started with is less than 0. So that's correct. 1.96 times 10 to the minus 14. Now we're going to go in the reverse direction. We have the scientific notation number. I want you to write it out as a regular number. So go ahead and give that first one a try. Yeah, so let's do it. The way I like to do these is I take my decimal point, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that means I'm filling in zeros. 1, 2, 3. So yeah. That's what you should get. So try the second one. So you should have 7 zeros and then the 216. Okay. So that's scientific notation. If you can do that, then you're golden. Any questions on that? It seemed like everybody who was participating understands, but there's a lot more, y'all, that is writing in the chat box. So either people silence me and they watching the movie and going back to sleep, which is fine, I get it, or there's some question marks. So just make sure that if you're not actively participating in the chat and answering the questions and doing them in your notebook, that you get it. Okay? Thank you. I like it when you communicate with me. Let me know that you're following, that you're good, or hold up, I don't get it. Either one of those is fine. Excellent. The first 0 is a placeholder 0. So that one. Okay? And with these, you can also do the practice of sig figs, right? So in the first example, for this type of problem, there are 3 sig figs, and the same for the second one. They just happen to both have 3 sig figs, but they look totally different. Okay, so that's how you can incorporate some of your own practice when you're doing these problems. Make sure you get it. So the final slide is just some reminders. August 30th, Mastering Chemistry assignments and your chapter check-in for the prerequisite science skills. Both of those things are due August 30th, 11:59 Eastern Standard Time. How many of you guys are doing this class? How many of you are like on campus or, in Greensboro, like, but just by a show of hands? How many of you are doing the face-to-face? Okay. Okay. So, either way, so obviously, I'm in North Carolina too, so we're on the same time zone. But if you're home and you live in a different time zone, you still have to do everything by Eastern Standard Time. Okay? So just make sure that you know that. August 30th, that's a Sunday. All assignments are due on Sunday. So Mastering Chemistry, homework, quiz, due August 30th. In addition to the prerequisite science skills homework and quiz, there's an introduction to mastering chemistry that I want you to do first. And that will help you learn how to put your answers in so that you're not getting marked wrong or losing the number of chances that you have just because you put it in wrong. So go ahead and do that first. You don't have to study for that. That will just help you get acquainted with using mastering chemistry. Then do the homework and the quiz. And as you go along, if you have questions, send me a message through the course messages and I will respond to you individually, or I'll put out an announcement for everybody if I think it's something that everybody might struggle on. So please don't feel silly for sending me a question. It's better to ask the question and get help and clarification than to get it wrong and suffer in silence. Because y'all pay too much in tuition for that. There's no point. The other reminder is that I'm going to have the Chapter 2 lecture up and available on Wednesday. So you will have from Wednesday when it's posted up until Monday to watch that lecture and get a feel for Chapter 2. Chapter 2 is math. We're going to be talking about still keeping kind of with Sig Figs, but we're also going to be learning about the metric system and how to do some calculations with the metric system. So just a heads up, make sure you have your calculator. If you have any questions for me, now is the time. Otherwise, you are free to go. And I'm going to stop recording now since class is kind of over. But let me know if you have questions.